their homes. NPR's Dwali Saiko Tao is in Malibu, where damage assessment teams are out trying to determine the safety of structures and neighborhoods.
Fire personnel and emergency management crews are carefully assessing neighborhoods in evacuation areas. Over the weekend, officials confirmed that 2 fatalities in Malibu were wildfire-related.
It appears that they were in their car, they were burned in their car, so from my perspective, they're probably trying to evacuate too late. This might be an example of someone not leaving soon enough to get out safely.
Los Angeles County Fire Chief Darrell Osby says they're still trying to identify who the victims are to make the proper notification. Dwali Saiko Tao, NPR News, Malibu.
A judge in Florida is urging the respective sides in an ongoing midterm election recount to ramp down the rhetoric. Those comments come as some Democrats accuse Republicans of trying to block votes from being counted, and some Republicans, including President Trump, have made unsubstantiated allegations of illegal voting activity and last-minute ballots. Florida Democratic Congressman Ted Deutsch says as the recount there continues, the baseless accusations aren't helpful.
The supervisors' offices are all working hard and around the clock. We just need to ease off of the rhetoric. We need the governor and Senator Rubio and President Trump to stop spinning conspiracy theories about what's happening in our election.
All 67 counties in Florida are racing to complete recounts after unofficial results found the governor's race and Senate races to be within half a percentage point in terms of the vote counts. Stan Lee has died at the age of 95 today under the banner of the Marvel Universe. He helped to create many of the most iconic superheroes in popular culture, the X-Men, the Incredible Hulk, and Spider-Man, to name a few. Here's NPR's Andrew Limbong.
When Stanley Martin Lieber got his first crack at writing a comic book in the 1940s, he told NPR in 2015 he was too embarrassed to use his real name.
I realized that people had no respect for comic books at all.
So he became Stan Lee, and he infused his comics with characters that weren't just muscular men with perfect moral compasses, but instead people who were flawed, complex, funny. You guys okay? My bad, that was a little hard. Spider-Man, Black Panther, Invisible Woman, and others challenged the status quo of superheroes and helped make the Marvel Universe the movie empire it is today. Andrew Limbong, NPR News.
A broad sell-off in the tech sector sent large swaths of the financial markets lower to start the new trading week. The Dow was down 602 points to 25,387. The Nasdaq fell 206 points. That's down 2.75%. This is NPR. The United Nations says it is working with Egypt to broker an end to the latest fighting in Gaza. It's calling for an end to rocket fire and for restraint by all sides. Palestinian militants fired dozens of rockets and mortars at southern Israel today, with the Israeli military responding with a wave of airstrikes. The violence was apparently triggered by a botched Israeli military raid in Gaza over the weekend, in which 7 Palestinians and an Israeli officer were killed. There are new physical activity recommendations out today. NPR's Allison Aubrey reports the updated guidelines released by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services are aimed at helping people offset damages of sitting too much.
As our jobs have become more sedentary, the damage is clear. Lack of physical activity is linked to $117 billion in annual health care costs. And in order to get Americans moving, the new message is to try to add little bursts of physical activity throughout the day. So if you walk to work or take the stairs instead of the elevator, all this movement counts. It can help you reach the target of 150 minutes of exercise per week. Kathleen Jans of the University of Iowa helped review the new evidence on exercise.
Every time you're active, you think better, you sleep better, and you feel better.
She says focusing on these immediate benefits can help motivate us to move. Allison Aubrey, NPR News.
Look for plenty of people to be making the Thanksgiving trek this year. In fact, Florida-based AAA estimates that upwards of 54 million Americans will journey 50 miles or more to be with family members over the Thanksgiving holiday. That's the highest travel volume since 2005. I'm Jack Spear, NPR News in Washington.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pride. I hope everybody's having a great night. Hopefully it's not snowing where you are or had snowed. It's really cold here. So we're surviving covered in blankets and cats and all kinds of stuff here. So hopefully you guys are all warm where you're at. My guest tonight is J.C. Phillips. He is an ex-paranormal investigator, and he's also the Ozark Bushman. He is really involved in survival in the Ozarks. And so one question I have for you, what is unique, JC, about surviving in the Ozarks compared to other places?
Well, it's very lush wilderness here. A lot of woods. A lot of land that you can build shelters and live like mountain men and like in the old native ways. So there's there's a lot of rivers and creeks and a lot of deer and turkey. So you've got so much abundant amount of resources you can use in this area to survive on.
There's also, so people know this, there are also moonshiners in Ozark Mountains, lots and lots of them. So you got to be very careful of them because they're very territorial. There's also, isn't there ginseng in the Ozark Mountains?
Yeah, there's ginseng, echinacea. There's a lot of edible plants around here too.
Yeah, but ginseng is gold. So
yeah, it's a energy stimulator. If
people know that they have it on, if they know that it's there, it's like moonshine. They will kill you for it. Because I know they will in the Appalachians. So I don't know if that happens in the Ozarks, but I do know that it happens in the Appalachians. Also, have you ever come across any mountain lions out there? Because I know that there's the wildcat, the tiger sanctuary is down there. We also have a wildcat sanctuary here in our town. I know Kansas, who'd have thunk it? Little town in Kansas, we have a wildcat sanctuary. But and I know that there's one on the way down to Branson. But have you ever seen any mountain lions down in there, or lynx, or anything like that?
I've never seen mountain lions, but I've heard a lot of the locals have seen them from back where I'm from, and but I've seen a couple of bobcats in my time. They're very nocturnal, very elusive. Like I said, I've only seen two in my 38 years, so they're hard to find. But I mean, I've camped in Ozark Mountains and heard them their screams and such like that. So,
what about bears? Are there bears in the Ozarks?
Yes, I've actually had one encounter when I was younger. We've seen a bear down there by Bull Creek where I was raised, and me and my mom and my grandma at the time were hiking down the gravel road, and we seen one, and it took off through the woods. And there's a lot of brown bears down here and black bears. Back in the mid '80s, the conservation department had let loose a whole bunch of bears back in that time. So they're pretty abundant. I mean, they hibernate in the winter, so I mean, you don't see them very often. Like I said, I've only seen that one, but yeah, they're out there.
Yeah, I've never seen any. I've been back in where Copper Run is and Bear Creek and all, and I didn't see any back in there, but it looked like it was an area where bears would roam around. There's a lot of muscadines back in there and things like that, so it would make me think that there would be bears back in there.
Yes.
So, yeah. Like I said, I pay attention to my surroundings enough to know what's going on. Kat has a question in the chat room about dogmen. Is there any history of dogmen in the Ozarks?
No, not around here. That was actually, I want to say that actually was a, what they call some of the elite braves in some of the Indian tribes, like the Sioux and the Cheyenne. But around here is a lot of Cherokee and Osage. But other than that,
so they never recognized any dogmen down there.
No, I've never heard of that around here.
Okay. Well, have you ever run across a razorback?
No, I haven't actually. And since that's the Arkansas mascot for the Arkansas Razorback football team,
Mm-hmm.
I'd imagine those would probably be more farther south. But I've never seen anything like that around here.
Because I've heard that they're in Missouri as well. That's all I've heard. And when Kat wanted to say cryptids, not skinwalkers, as far as dogmen go.
Skinwalkers?
She said cryptids. You know, like
Oh,
when she's talking about dogmen, she's talking about cryptids like Bigfoot, not skinwalkers like Native Americans type.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, because skinwalkers is actually what you call a Native American witch. So, or that they can transform into animals. But cryptids, like I was saying before, you know, there's like that Phillips Lake monster, and there's like that next to hellhound, and then you know the Bigfoot. That you know that the sightings they've had around here back in the '80s, and then the ones I told you about.
Yeah.
As far as that's. And you know, like the giant fish, but other than that, that's about the most of it that I know. And I've grown up here all my life.
One of the things that I actually saw the story on TV on Monsters and Mysteries in America. It was called, it was in Humansville, and it was called The Flying Humanoid. These hunters were out, and they said that they saw this flying humanoid. And those of you who don't know, Humansville is not really that far from Springfield. We go by the sign for it when we go to Springfield all the time. Is that anything that you've heard of in your area? Anything like that?
No, I've not heard of that in my area. That's kind of new to me. Humansville. That's actually quite a ways from where I'm at. But that kind of sounds like, you know, like kind of like the Mothman from, you know, Point Pleasant, Virginia.
Well, it's flying. It should come. It could fly past your house.
Yeah, could be. That's just right, exactly. That's just kind of like the chupacabra that actually exists. There's actually a lady, I want to say it was in Texas, that actually shot one and had it taxidermist stuff and mounted. She has it in her house.
Yeah, I remember that. I saw that too. And so we played this road game on animals we find dead on the road. And so, you know, if I can't tell you what it is, it's a chupacabra, you know. So, but every time, I mean, we'll go down the road and it's like, okay, well, that's a deer and that's, you know, possum. And of course, this time of year, you don't have possums. You tend to have more furry creatures. But yeah, there are times when I can't recognize what it is, and it is a chupacabra. I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't be making fun of stuff. When you're out in the woods, when you're doing your survival type stuff, are you always aware that, you know, yeah, I might be building a fire to cook my beans on toast. I'm sorry, that's a Peppa Pig reference. too much time with Peppa Pig, because you know everybody loves beans on toast. When you're out there doing this stuff, are in the back of your mind, are you thinking I could be being watched by Bigfoot or aliens or, you know, the local witch that there's a story about? Do you think about that, or are you actually focused on the survival piece of it, or do you still think about the paranormal piece?
When I'm out there doing bushcraft and building and doing all that, I focus more on the task at hand.